Welcome to The Station, a podcast of the Arkansas Business Engine. I'm Whitney Hickerson, Communications Director here at the Arkansas Business Engine, along with my cohort Ty King, Marketing Director. And joining us today is Vernice King, one of my favorites.
Hey everybody.
Vernice is an Arkansas transplant. She's originally from Chicago. She's got a background that's kind of just a little bit of everything from engineering, marketing, e-commerce to cosmetology and insurance and mortgage loan origination. So kind of just a whole spectrum of things. She is an entrepreneur. She owns and manages her family business, King Care Painting and Construction. And she also owns the mobile notary service, Arkansas Notary 24/7. She's very, very beneficial to our business here with that notary service. And she's getting ready to launch a lifestyle and business course at the placeforresources.com. And also has a little side hustle as a dispatcher for Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. So she's, even with her current entrepreneurial and business endeavor, she's kind of just a little bit of everything. She is here in Arkansas, and I think your parents are here, but your siblings, are they still here? Or are they
in Georgia?
They're in Georgia, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, we are excited to have you here, Vernice. Tell me a little bit about something that's not in this bio, something about yourself.
I mean, how could I not? Everything, all right, but I'm a self-proclaimed butterfly. I'm a butterfly. I do what I want to do when I want to do it. And if I'm interested in something, then I use all the resources that I have. So sometimes it may be some non-traditional training, and if there's a course or something, I'm like, well, let's take the course. And I can get a certification. Well, yeah, go ahead. Just go ahead. But it's usually the experience or maybe a group that I'm in or participating in or something like that that kind of just sparks that. I'm a multitasker. If I'm not busy doing something, I'm looking for something to do.
Yeah.
And I can't turn that part of my brain off, so I don't try to do it. But some of that is that I'd like to do gardening, and the Game and Fish introduced me to the hunting aspect of it, hunting and fishing,
mm-hmm.
which being from Chicago, which is usually a anti-gun state, I was like, who needs to hunt? Nobody needs to do that, whatever. But then when I came to Arkansas and I started working for Game and Fish, then I learned
that everybody has a gun.
Well, yeah. And then I learned, I gained an appreciation for what I like. Well, let me say what I liked about the gardening is the ability to feed yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what gave me the freedom and the courage to make certain decisions, to leave my job. I worked for Comcast Cable for 15 years, and I was making a decent salary. I was making probably more than anybody in my family at that time. And when I decided to leave and come to Arkansas to paint, my manager was like, "You're going to Arkansas to paint?" I was like, "Yeah, bye." But I was nervous, but I knew that I could feed myself. So I might have to sleep on somebody's couch, but I wouldn't starve. And then the hunting aspect of it, I'm like, now I can put some meat on the table with these vegetables. So that, and I haven't killed anything or hunted anything, but it's just nice to know that there is an option out there if I wanted to. But this is free range, non-hormone,
mm-hmm.
organic.
Can't get any more natural than
that. Exactly. So, and they say you're helping the population too.
There's conservation aspects to hunting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then the thing that I appreciated the most too was not just having the guns, but gun safety. Everybody I meet, they say, well, we grew up with guns in the house. We know gun safety. Nobody's accidentally shooting themselves in our house.
Mm-hmm.
And even like in Chicago, where there's this high crime rate, well, not necessarily high crime rate, but the shooting is what gets a lot of
media attention.
Exactly. So I'm sure that kind of violence happens everywhere. But I think the challenge in Chicago is that since people don't grow up with guns, then if they get angry and they want to shoot somebody, then they just spray shoot. Whereas in Arkansas or other states, if I want to shoot you, I could just aim and shoot you and not everybody in the parking lot. So there is there's some value to that. Just to know how to aim, shoot, and handle the gun properly.
Well, yeah,
So
there's a lot of just the knowing how to handle firearms and how to not accidentally discharge and knowing, when to use it and when not to, and there's a lot that goes into it.
Right. And so I think even if you're not going to use guns, I think that if other people are going to use guns, just like driving a car, you don't have to own a car to know how to drive a car.
Yeah.
It is helpful to know how to drive it if ever you need to and have a driver's license. So I think the same applies with guns.
Agree. My husband's big on gun safety, and you see all these pictures on the internet of people waving their guns around. He's like, they're not using proper safety techniques. And
Exactly.
I'm just like, what? And you can see their finger, and I was like, you're looking way too close at that photo.
But that's for real.
It's true, and that's how accidents happen. Is people aren't using proper techniques.
And then when life is imitating TV, then somebody wants to get mad, they're gonna get a gun, and they're gonna do what they saw on TV. That's why they're shooting sideways.
Yes.
Whatever. You shoot like that for real. Yes, somebody's accidentally gonna get or something.
Yeah, because you have no control.
Exactly.
Hurt your wrist or something.
Exactly. So I think there's some significance there.
So being a butterfly, moving around, doing whatever you want to do, how does a 24/7 notary service work within that? If somebody calls you at midnight to say, I need a notary service.
Absolutely. I will, and I do get those calls. Now, there will be an after hours fee. Okay. So I will let you know that if this is something that could wait till normal business hours,
right,
I encourage you to do so. Otherwise, there's going to be surcharge for this. But people need, they run into all kind of emergencies, and you can't choose whether or not a document needs to be notarized.
Sure.
And the documents that I come across, or whatever those situations are, sometimes it's a family member taking maybe the children, and they need like some type of permission or power of attorney or something like that. It could be a sick relative that maybe doing some final estate planning or something like that. Or a lot of times I get maybe truckers or something who are coming through and they're stopping for a few hours or something like that. So I just make it work. I know I have a hard time finding a notary after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
After 3 o'clock, so that's kind of where that came from. And actually, to be honest, my notary mentor, there's another lady who I've kind of mirrored it. She's in Texas, and we kind of work in the same group. So I just kind of mirrored her style, and she talked about the significance and the importance, or the impact that she has with families, because she does a lot of end of life type things, and so. It made me cry, so I was like, I want to help people or whatever.
Right.
So, just being able to offer that service to people, and I get people that are homebound, and it'll be a situation where they did not know what they were going to do, power of attorney or something like that.
Or with COVID, I bet your business has done well with people not wanting to go, banks not being open, so people can't go and have a notary service at a bank or. Aren't wanting to get out around other people in public. It's nice to have someone just come to their home for them.
Absolutely. And I do have office space too, because people will just show up, and I'm like, I'm a mobile notary. I'm out. I may not be there.
Yeah.
And all of my communication says make an appointment or call to make sure I'm there. But, people are like, I see an address. I'm going to show up. But even before the COVID, when I would get calls for notaries, because most of the times the banks and even the library will do it for free. And I would say that because I am a mobile notary and you found me because you Googled me, so I have a little bit of overhead. There is a fee associated with this. But contact your bank or your library to see if they have a notary on staff and whom I could do it for free. And then if you still need my services after that, then feel free to give me a call. I don't want to rip people off. I do want to help people. So I don't mind sharing whatever resources I have with people.
So what made you want to get into a notary? You came down to Arkansas to paint, and then you opened up a 24/7 notary. Those two things I don't really see a connection to. So what happened there?
Right, none of these things connect.
Right.
Cosmetology to engineering.
Well, you're a butterfly. Yeah.
Right. Well, when I decided to leave Chicago, because I was looking for a change, and was originally going to go to Virginia. My best friend is in the Navy there. And I told my dad, and he said, you've been promising me for years you're going to come to Arkansas and help me with this painting business. I was like, that's right. Shoot. I said, well, okay, I'm going to Arkansas, and I said, I'm going to give you 2 good years. I'm going to do whatever I can, 2 good years. And I was thinking, I'm in my 30s. I don't really want to paint, but geez Louise. So when I got here, he told me he really wanted me to do administration stuff, which was a huge relief to me because I did try to paint for 1 week. It was horrible. We lost a lot of time on that. But during that, me focusing on the administrative stuff and just learning the whole Arkansas business community and stuff like that, we started to make a lot of progress. We grew really fast. Each year, our revenues doubled, and we kind of grew too fast. And I had heard, be careful about growing too fast. But I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever heard.
What controlled growth is a big deal.
Absolutely. Don't grow too fast, guys. Because there's a lot of systems you need to put in place to manage that. Maintain quality control, your customer system, being able to afford new, bigger jobs and things like that. So we kind of hit a, what's a good word for it?
Like a plateau.
Well, we were exhausted. He and I both. We were working
burnout.
Exactly, and we were losing the quality control, things like that, and we did not have the systems in place to manage a full scale company of the way we were running at that time. And so, in our burnout, we were both like, forget it. We're not going to work this, and we quit. And I said, I'm just going to give me a regular job and do like everybody else and just work and come home 40 hours a week and go to sleep at night. I guess every entrepreneur probably goes through that, that
it's
cycle.
It's a lot more work running a business than it ever was when I worked for somebody else. Definitely put in more hours doing this than I ever did.
And hours laying awake at night.
And just waking up. Did I do something right? Did I handle their stuff? Or they, because I do the finances, so I'm sitting here thinking like, or everyone's accounts, like when we transition over to like new accounting software, which we're doing for one of our clients, like, are those payments going to go through? Did everybody's account information, was it processed? Worrying, are people going to get paid when they're supposed to? Because money is a big deal for everybody. And then you wake up the next morning and at like 5 o'clock, have you heard anything? No, I haven't heard anything. Why are you messaging me at 5 in the morning? I'm just checking.
Right.
And you're wondering, why are you awake at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
Because they're also
stressed.
owning their own business and stressing out about it.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the cycle that we all go through.
And your brain doesn't turn off. You're constantly operating. You fall asleep from exhaustion, not because it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
So I just decided I was just going to give me a regular job. And that's how I started working for Game and Fish, because for Comcast, I was a dispatcher. And so I was just looking for a 24-hour dispatch job, that would give me the flexibility to do what I wanted to do. And that's when I started working for the Game and Fish. And then during the entrepreneur cycle, I was like, okay, it's time to go back to work. And our clients were still calling us and things like that. So, but we had stopped bidding jobs. So for a while, the work dried up. And I needed a way to manage the finances we had. And I saw some kind of ad for the mobile notary or whatever, and I decided to take a chance on it. And then as I did just more and more research, it developed out of that, because I was just going to do real estate transactions. But the notary mentor that I eventually ended up following, he would interview people. He had a similar kind of session like this, and there was a lady out of Texas who had that compelling story about, needing a notary when her family was going through a transition, and how she decided to launch it and how well it was working for her. And then I changed my marketing to match, just mobile notary, and I started getting calls immediately. On the weekend, people were selling and doing different transactions, and they wanted a notary there. And it's convenient to be a mobile notary because you're conducting a business agreement over dinner or something like that. Now you can do your transaction without having to go to another place.
Yeah.
You can kind of keep that
energy going.
Yeah. So, and it's just grew from there. And the groups that I'm in here in Arkansas, they give me a lot of support. If somebody asks for a notary in
Everyone's
this area,
on there
Everyone
talking
lists
about Vernice.
I
Arkansas 24/7 notary.
I'm
Tag,
saying,
tag.
when I first saw that, even now when I see that, I'm like, look, I just feel like I get a hug every time I see that. I feel like, and I'm like, I know by now they see that I've been tagged in it, but thank you, girl, thank you. So I love it, but I try to give back that same love and that same energy that I get from the community. So hopefully that's just yeah. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys.
One thing you've kind of touched on, and one thing I know about you is you're very big on the power of like mentors and peer support, and helping each other grow. What kind of impact have mentors had in your life and your growth as a business owner, specifically?
Before I guess I've always kind of done like little side hustles or whatever because we were poor, and there was never enough money in the house. So if you wanted something, you had to, do extra stuff. And I've always had people take me in or take me under their wing or something like that. There was a period of time where we were homeless from when I was like second to eighth grade. During that time, I went to 7 different grammar schools, and 2 of them I transferred to twice. So we almost went to foster care, but we didn't because people took us in. And so with that, I think, and even my mom, as she was transitioning during that, then one of the shelters she was in, she ended up being a volunteering. And then she moved to part-time where she would cover shifts. Then they hired her full-time, and eventually she became the supervisor. So I've always been in this kind of like peer group, this networking group, or something like that, officially or unofficially. So, and we just kept busy doing stuff. So we didn't have a TV for a long time. So we just had books or activities.
Yeah.
So I think that's just, I don't know if I know any other way to do stuff. So people give to me. I feel like the universe has been so kind to me that I feel an obligation to give back. And that's what my mother said. Because even as she moved through beyond the homelessness, she's always worked in community-based jobs and things. So that's where a lot of my volunteering comes from, because she worked with pregnant and parenting teens. And then she did sex education workshops during the time of the AIDS crisis and things like that. So, and she said that because people had taken her in and taken her children in, that she would always work in public service some kind of way.
Yeah, well, that's great. So, and I know that you are also very generous with your time and resources and wisdom. Anytime that we sit down and talk, and next thing you know, you're like, here, let me send you this book. I'm going to, give me all sorts of resources and books.
That's the nerd in me. I can't help it. And it's all this stuff, these butterflies. Somebody said that, like the ADHD brain, she said it's like a bunch of squirrels running around in your head or whatever. And I'm like, I feel that.
Yeah.
So it helps me to release some of this stuff that I've been consuming. I'm like, is this crazy? Like, I've been thinking about this. Does it sound crazy? And whatever feedback, usually it's positive feedback. I'm like, okay, well, I could put that in the not crazy part.
Put that in the 2 keys.
Exactly, until I sort out the rest of this stuff. So, because it all some kind of way touches or builds on each other or affects one. Like even the engineering, there's parts of that math and science stuff that touches on some of this other stuff, like game and fish. Some of the things that I love about game and fish and the hunting aspect of it is how much science and math is in this. The hunting seasons are based off of breeding seasons,
breeding patterns.
Yeah,
and each place in Arkansas has its different zoning. So,
and each of the animals, like the whole bird,
Fowl
when,
population.
I mean, it's crazy. So when I learned this stuff, so the hunting season for the birds is based off of when they're migrating, to and from or whatever. And so now when I see this flock of birds, at first we just paid attention to the V pattern because that's what I learned in 6th grade or whatever. But now I'm like, they're looking to mate or whatever, and it's gonna be dinner for somebody tonight. And the turkeys, I think that was the most interesting one for me. Because they gave me the tool that makes the sound for the turkey. Yeah, the turkey call, right?
And it's a little box, and nobody would have ever.
And that is the sound that the female turkey makes. So they're attracting male turkey. So he thinks that he's about to go get lucky. Right? Yeah. He's like, hey girl.
Somebody's Thanksgiving dinner.
Right. So just having that whole thing play out. And then even with the archery and the hunting, they teach for ethical shooting to take a clean shot and stuff like that. So
yes, yeah. I have a friend who, when they take their son shooting, he always gets so angry if they do like just a swirly shot. Because if they kill it and they can't find it, then it just dies somewhere. Nobody gets to, take that animal home and use it.
What is going on here?
What's the appropriate greeting
a
for
salute
that?
or something?
As per usual, David has come in with something probably.
Yeah, if you're an audio
inappropriate.
listener, you're really not going to get this
Yeah.
joke. Just bypass it altogether.
But you look adorable. Let me just tell you that.
You look adorable too.
Thank you.
Doesn't she look adorable?
She looks fabulous.
Doesn't she
You
look
and
adorable?
Yes. Explain your headwear.
My headwear is my favorite hat from my Nigerian friend. And I like to wear it on occasions when I feel happy about something. And I just learned that my COVID test came back negative.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
really.
So
Something
I
to
do not
celebrate.
have COVID,
Well,
which is
that's
why I'm not
amazing.
wearing a mask right now.
But you are wearing a hat.
And so
Mask
I wore
off,
my
hat on.
Nigerian
Got it.
happy hat
Yeah.
in celebration.
There you go.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
For the announcement. It's cause for celebration.
Yes.
What's over there in the glass case?
Well, those are empty glasses right now, but we may need to fill them up.
Working with him, we tend to have to fill those up more often than not.
That's true.
That's a great boss. That's a great company culture. You guys are going to get the award, best company to work for.
We're a good
If you can
company, that's for
survive
sure.
us, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
We may drive you nuts, though.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But we kind of do the work hard, play hard mentality. You know,
We
if
do.
we're gonna run our own business, that's part of the culture we want to have here. It's our business; we get to choose the culture, right? So we want to do really good work and help our clients and help their businesses grow. But if you're miserable every day of your life, like, why are you running this business if you just hate every moment that you're spending inside of it? So, and it's just, we're such a small group that we are like a little family here. So, sometimes we bicker like siblings, and sometimes, we really are there and support each other, and, and it's just kind of a little bit of everything, but we like to have a good time, but do good work.
You hit a good point that I've, even before I started working for myself, as far as enjoying where you work. If you spend 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week in a place, then how it's so important that you enjoy what you do, or find something about it that you like what you do. Because you can't, I used to say, like, you can't go to work all day and kick your desk and then come home and be like, hey family, love
No,
to see
you
you.
definitely take it home.
Right. That energy comes home to you. It
Yeah.
comes over in your relationships with your children and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. So that is definitely one of the benefits. The main benefit of working for yourself is creating that space, or at least finding what it is that you like to do.
Yeah.
And turning that into a business. One of the handicaps I noticed during that whole real estate market crash was all the people with like these specialized degrees were saying that they couldn't find work with their degree. Well, my thought was, well, you have a degree, how are you having a hard time? And they're like, well, my degree is in HR and I can't find an HR job. So I felt like that was crazy to allow a degree to limit
To
you.
hold you back.
Yeah, when it's supposed to help you excel in your career,
Mm-hmm.
but instead, people were allowing it to pigeonhole themselves. So even when my manager suggested that I was coming to Arkansas to paint, but there are so many different skills that I use to help, and what helped our business grow. It wasn't the painting. If it was me painting, then we would have been out of business. This wouldn't even be a conversation. But I was able to pull all these other skills that I had learned from all these totally unrelated fields and excel in, different spaces.
Yeah.
So the marketing part of it, and it was all kind of trial and error, finding the resources, doing the networking, finding the customers, creating I was trying to do the finances, but as we grew, we had so many different subcontractors, so many different customers, so many different suppliers, and trying to track all of that. I didn't know job costing was a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And at first I had my little Excel sheet and it was growing beyond me. And at some point my accountant suggested the QuickBooks and the job costing, which was still a process.
Yeah.
It wasn't so easy to apply that. But just finding what it is that you like to do,
Yeah.
and applying that or pulling that piece out in whatever work it is that you do.
Well, and I think that's really valuable, especially now, like in this age of COVID where everyone's like, pivot, pivot, pivot. And it's like, well, how do I pivot? Well, take these skills. Like maybe your degree is in HR, but like, what are the skills that you were using? When I first went out on my own, I had a mediation firm. I mean, that's what I was doing when we met, and I'm still doing mediation, but I kind of integrated back into a lot of the PR and marketing as well. But I got into that because I had a heart for helping families going through divorce, because I went through a divorce with a child. And I knew that even though I'm not a mediator, but I'm a communicator. Like my degree is in communication. Like that's my profession. I can take these communication skills and apply them in a mediation setting to help other families. And so I think a lot of that is, just taking those skills, the skills, the things you enjoy, the thing you're passionate about. And, maybe it's not what your degree is in, but, what are those skills that can kind of relate to other industries and other interests that you may have. I think that's a great point. Especially now when your career might be, because if your career is in the hospitality industry, it may be just sort of all just in the tank right now.
Absolutely. I mean, and I was having a conversation with, did you come to the shifter?
No, I had
Okay.
another meeting
Okay.
that evening, so I wasn't able to make that.
The bartender there was expressing concern about what was going to happen with the hospitality industry now, and how she felt like she was a little nervous that the whole economy was going to suffer. And true, there are some parts of the economy that is going to suffer, but there are so many more that are evolving right now.
Well, I think
and
they said that
emerging.
like Uber back in the last recession that we had, that Uber was created during that. I think there were like 8 major companies that are billion-dollar companies now that were created during the last recession, that they just saw a need for that. And and they started then, and now they're these huge industries. So I think a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to be able to do anything, like the world's shut down. But there's still, and we see that, there's still a lot of businesses that are working, that are doing really well, that come in here and say like, I am making more money than I've ever made. I don't know what to do. We're growing faster than I can do any of this myself, and I need help in all these different areas. So I think there's a lot of companies, that are doing really well in industries. And I think there are some, just like you said, that they may tank and they may not recover and their doors may close and stuff. But I do think that the majority of them, though, are still doing really well, and they're just adapting to this new way of life. Like we wanted to have a ribbon cutting and we wanted to have these different events, and I think that we were trying to do like a job fair and all this stuff, but then COVID has stopped a lot of that. But we've just had to learn how to kind of pivot ourselves to still be able to market ourselves and get ourselves out there, but just do it in a different way. But we've still been successful at it. Are we as successful as we would have been if we did it like traditional, a traditional way that we normally would have done? Maybe not, but I mean, we're not backtracking, we're still making progress.
We're learning new techniques and new things and things that we can teach that to our clients as well. And I think that that's, when you talk about like the Uber and the other businesses that were born out of the last recession, one thing that I've learned, and part of it's a mindset shift, is that sometimes, these trying times can breed innovation. And so it's kind of like that. Where's your mindset going to be? Is your mindset going to be, things are tough, everything sucks, I'm just going to go crawl in my hole and feel bad? Because I do have a tendency to be kind of that pessimistic person. But I have done a lot of mindset work. We've done some, mastermind mindset work together in some groups. But it's just that, okay, well, now what can I do? Like whatever industry I'm in may not be doing well, but what can I do? How can I transition? Where can I innovate to build something good during this time?
And just paying attention to what people need now.
Yes.
So if you're a company that's a big dinosaur where you're just this big body and you got this little bitty head that's controlling everything with these little arms, then yes, you're going to struggle. You're probably going to be extinct.
That's a great way.
Right?
I love it.
But if you pay attention to the things that people need from you or need in general, like all of the homeschooling parents right now, if you have any skills with children remotely or even where you're willing to pick them up or go there. Mm-hmm. That when we were on some of those calls with, they were doing like COVID check-ins, things like that. Like how can we help? What do you need or whatever? And I saw some Facebook memes that were like, people with no children during the quarantine were like, I started a new hobby. I remodeled my house. I'm doing this. I'm resting up.
Parents were like,
hey,
save that.
Exactly.
Come help me teach my child to read because we're both struggling.
Exactly.
I would have totally been able to, I would have paid someone like, please come teach him because he's like putting letters in here that don't even exist in this word and I'm about to freak out.
And hold on. I didn't even know that math base 10 was a thing. Right?
Oh
I'm
my
still
gosh.
carrying the one. I didn't even know what.
And my
this
kids
thing
are like,
was.
"What's that mean?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What's that mean? What are they teaching you there?" But like, I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on numbers, and then I'll sit there and help my 3rd and 4th grader. I'm like, "What is this? Why are you doing it this way? There's like 94 steps for you," and I just didn't learn it that way. And it's not like it's not like what they're doing is wrong. It's just a different way that I wasn't taught. And so when you tell me, okay, well, school's shut down, so. Mm-hmm. Here you go. You're going to teach this to your kids. Well, I'm only going to teach it the way that I know how to teach it, but they've never learned it that way. So we're both like butting heads. Or I don't remember how to I don't know. It's been I'm 31, so 2nd grade when I learned how to read. I don't remember like the long vowel sound or the short vowel sound, or if there's a double vowel. What is that? What does that sound like? And I'm sitting here like Googling like, how do you
listen? I'm like the grammar person,
vowel?
and I still am just like, we're gonna have to look that way because and I'm like, because fortunately my child's not there yet, but like I used to be really good at diagramming sentences. Now you could put a sentence up there and I'd be like, I got nothing. And so try to even just get this phonetics stuff going in math. The carrying the one, my daughter was asking a question when last semester when she was doing the virtual stuff, and I was showing it to her, and we carried the one, and she was like, well, my teacher doesn't let me do it that way. And I said, well, I'm the teacher now. Right. And I said, this is how we're doing it. She's just like, okay. Right. But because it's just like you said, it's not wrong. And I have a couple of parent friends who are, I guess, more, just more higher achievers than me, because they actually went and learned the base 10 methodology, and they're like, it's like, once you get a hang of it, it's actually pretty easy. I'm like, well, that's great, but I don't know what any of these things mean.
And if you still have to do your own work or some work yourself, and now you have to parent and repeat 2nd or 3rd grade.
So
or every grade.
So I think there are a lot of
the kids that you have.
Yeah.
For some people who have like 5 kids and they're in 5 different grades. Like you're literally a 2nd, 4th, 5th, 9th, 10th grade teacher for like all these kids. So I mean, I can see how
I've
that's
seen
struggle.
a lot of opportunities. A lot of fellow, moms who are running businesses. The 2 things that they are doing, one is hiring someone, even if it's part-time, to come in and either watch their kids or kind of keep the house under control, like a housekeeper and or a nanny, whether it's part-time or full-time. The other thing that's getting a lot of traction is VAs, virtual assistants. Because if you're a mom and you give someone, even if you have a baby that's not even in school yet, but you can't put her in daycare because of COVID, well, if you have someone that can even come in for 2 or 3 hours a day to give you a block of time that you can focus on getting work, that greatly increases your productivity, because babies take a lot of attention. The other thing is, if you can hire a VA and pay them for a few hours work every week
phone calls
to take on some of those tasks that are just, and let you focus on like the meat and potatoes of your business that you need to do, that can help too. And so those are the two things that I've seen really pick up with, like in some of those fellow like mom groups where we're all trying to figure out how to run our businesses during this. Those are two of the things that I see that picking up. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in those spaces.
Yeah, and I don't know if Conway's or if Arkansas is like this, but I know that I have a good friend who lives in Arizona, and so Arizona has shut their schools down, so they were in virtual, and so their oldest daughter is 11, so she's actually been doing well. She's able to kind of deal with the virtual thing on her own, but she's got a kindergartner and a first grader or second grader, and so I think it's been hard for them because they don't want to sit in front of a computer screen, and they're literally like as if they're in school sitting in front of a computer screen. So they may do one little class for an hour, and then they go and they take like a 5-minute break, and then they get 30 minutes for lunch or whatever. But that kindergartner's not going to want to sit at that table in front of a computer, and then I have to deal with other kids. And like she said that they've had moms and dads who have come in and like their night clothes, like their nightgowns, or like their underwear, and the kids are like, what's happening here? And like, you've got other kids who are like yelling and screaming, and the teacher's like, can you mute your mic? And so, if you have a kid who has like ADHD or can't focus very well, and they've got like 40 different things happening, it's hard. So she actually found a micro school. And so here's this mom who didn't want to go back to work, who is a teacher, is a licensed educator, and decided to open up what they call like a micro school. So she has like 10 kids that she teaches between kindergarten and 5th grade, whatever her license covers. And she teaches them, and she makes money off of it, like $5,000-$6,000 a kid in Arizona doing these micro schools, and the state pays her for it. And I mean, so that's a big pivot for her, like they're just, I think, people who have said like, well, there's really a need for this. And instead of her just stopping what she was doing, she said, well, there's another way for me to make money and still be home with my kids, and not have to put my kids at risk or myself at risk. And so now she just takes these little groups, and so now they have these little micro schools is what they call it.
And even I think if you didn't live somewhere where you have a public school system that will allow that, you could probably just do a
Like
homeschool
co-ops.
Yep.
Because I think that there's several of those little pods of co-op groups around here that I know of.
Yeah.
So.
And let's talk about the technology part of it, okay? Period. Because one of my friends, she's like, well, there's an option to send the kids to the grandparents for, a break or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, but my parents don't use technology well. So if they run into trouble with the school, with the technology, the Zoom or whatever, my parents can't help her.
Yeah.
So there's an area there. And I know when my mother calls, sometimes my blood pressure goes up because I'm like, she's going to ask me how to do something over the phone, and I'm like, I'm just going to come over there, okay? Because I can't figure it out what you're telling me. She makes up words and stuff. Like, I'm like, that is not even a thing. Yeah. Even activities, if you did want to get your kids out, there could be like some tours or something like that. And if you have an interest in something that you don't mind teaching, and even people who are developing hobbies, people who have some type of expertise or know something about something can create groups or something like that.
I've got a former coworker who is doing, which she actually started before COVID, but she does virtual group fitness. So, and she started integrating post-COVID. She's now, because that used to be just for adults, it's group fitness. You do it from home. It's live stream, or you can watch the recording if you want. But the whole point was to get that group feel at home. But she's integrated a lot of kids programs. She had a summer program. She's doing an after-school program. She's contracted with a school district to do like live workouts in the mornings. And so, so she kind of took her thing that she had been doing and just was like, okay, well, how can I help parents and kids? Because she's got a child too, so she gets that feeling of wanting to help parents, because she's dealing with it just like all of us. So she's implemented a lot of programs that used to be for her just adult programming, and really integrating it to a lot of kids and family oriented. She even will go out in the community and take like little field trips to like the community garden and things like that, so the kids can do virtual field trips without having to actually get out and be exposed or put at risk, and they can do it all from home, whether they're in regular school and doing that enrichment or they're at home doing virtual school. So
Yeah, my daughter's in 2nd grade and doing the virtual learning, and
Y'all
so
do some cool stuff.
right, yeah, we do. So right,
yeah, we do.
but we have to get creative though, because it's not in the school curriculum. But yeah, the things that she has to do, like most of the assignments are in Google Slides. And they never taught her, 1st grade, kindergarten, they never taught her how to use the Google Documents or slides or anything else, sheets or anything like that. And so it's been a real learning curve. Like you said, having to, if you send them off to your grandparents, the grandparents probably aren't going to know how to use it. Not the same way with my wife, even though she's a little bit younger than I am. I'm like, okay.
I don't know how to use Instagram.
Yeah.
So if I had a course on how to use Instagram right now, I would be taking it, because I'm like an old lady. I'm just pushing buttons, and my cousin is like, "What are you doing?" I'm
we
trying
need to
to
hook
do
that up. We need to have a class in here then.
I tell people, if you want me to see something, I think the over 40 crowd is on Facebook.
Sure.
And so
they are, and but there's more and more that are crossing over to Instagram.
Only because younger people aren't putting stuff on Facebook. So in order to,
It is like platforms. It was like MySpace, and then it became Facebook, and now it's like Instagram, but now the business world is going into LinkedIn, and I'm like, what? I don't even have a Twitter account or know anything about that. But
I remember GeoCities and Yahoo Communities. I don't know if you even remember any of those. MSN Messenger.
Yes. I had some fun away messages for my MSN Messenger and my AOL Instant Messenger, my AIM.
Yes,
that was always my big one. I did that one more than I did the MSN Messenger. But
crazy.
I had a couple little boyfriends who were only on MSN, so I had to get the MSN.
So my cousin is launching an athletic brand. Right? I'm not gonna put out any plug for Earn Your Shower, that kind of thing. But I was talking to him the other day, and he was talking about his business or whatever. I was like, well, what business are you doing? I didn't even know anything about this. And he's like, well, I'm all over Instagram. I was like, I don't use Instagram. And I was telling him, I'm like, the over 40 market, who usually has the disposable income to buy these kind of products or whatever, I'm on Facebook. I don't, or whatever. And so I looked at his Facebook page. He had 2 posts. I was like, 2?
I do feel like probably the younger generation, like maybe like 20s, early 30s, is probably more geared towards like Instagram. And then like Facebook and LinkedIn is more like older, more mature, businesses settled kind of thing. Like I think that's probably where most
the younger crowd has definitely been like, oh, I'm too cool for Facebook now. So then they started Instagram, and now they're also like getting into Snapchat and TikTok.
Right. And
I didn't even know that TikTok even had a business thing. I sent that as a joke, and I was like, are we supposed to be doing TikTok business? And they were like, absolutely not. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, what do you do? Like, I mean, I thought TikTok was just like a dancing app, right? Like that's all that I ever.
Well, if your target market is,
you can create like little small little short like skits and stuff like that. So they do that too. Like I said, I've got a friend that does rock tumbling. She polishes rocks, and she's got a huge following. It just blew up all of a sudden. I don't know. So you never know what it's going to be.
I guess for like DIY and things like that, you know, if you were someone who like refab things, or maybe you were like a you refinish furniture, things like that, that would be like a good platform for you to use.
Which one is we're talking about?
TikTok.
TikTok,
all I know is the challenges. I didn't even know. All I know is the challenges.
But for us around here, it's like I've seen offices that have had TikTok, and it's so bad.
Yeah,
it's cringy. You're like,
and David's so cringy.
Causing mischief around the office.
What the heck is that?
I don't even know. All I know is the challenges. All I know is it allows you to switch screens. But other than that, I don't know that I would use it. And so if there was a marketer out there that was like, hey, let me show you how to use TikTok for your business or whatever, maybe I would look at them, but I'm not interested in learning any other platforms. I think that I'm Facebook for life. Is there is that like a game?
I will say that like I'm at that, like a lot of us are kind of sort of in the same age group, and I'm in that kind of like almost dead center in the millennial age group. I'm kind of getting closer to my mid 30s. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of getting out of where I don't really qualify for early 30s anymore, but I still mostly, I keep trying to get better at it. And if I sit down and, hammer it out for, business, I can do that. Because that's just part of work. And I've done it before. But, my personal Instagram, I'm trying again to get back into it, and
No, I can't.
I just can't. I'm already like I'm just.
I don't think I've posted in like 3 years.
I'm
I'm
just
just not.
Mm-hmm.
Ty is our
getting myself
marketing person.
trained to
Yeah.
post on
Marketing.
Facebook, and that's where I post on stuff is Facebook.
Gotta
And
get
it's
you on
just-
camera more often.
So to the
Right.
Yeah, so I
audience,
just expect Ty to take care of it. I'm like, hey, can you put this post out? And she's like, well, like Whitney has told me, like, why don't you do it? And I'm like, I don't do that. Like, that's the whole reason why this is why our business works so well, is I don't do that. Period. Like the marketing thing is just not me, and it never will be. And I'm okay with like accepting that I'm never going to be comfortable enough, or do I want to put any effort into finding that, like, or getting better at that. I tried my Canva thing, but I told you, like,
You did.
one post would take me like 4 hours,
So,
or I'd have two that
for
took me
the-
4 hours, and I'd only keep one of them, and it looked still not even good.
Right.
Like, there's some that I know that Ty was like, not putting that at the top of the page, like, not tagging that one.
So here's another job opportunity for somebody. You're right. For the solopreneur, I'm not learning all of those platforms. I'm using the one that I use for my personal
Right.
or whatever. And depending on where the dollars are, if the over 40 market, put it on Facebook. If you're under 30, I guess,
I would
low
say
30.
like 20s are probably.
Yeah, then that would be the
Big in
Instagram and
Instagram.
the Snapchat. Maybe if you have younger teenagers and stuff, maybe you've learned how to use those platforms or whatever. But for a single person with some disposable income that's buying stuff off Facebook, I'm like, ooh, that's cute. Shop or whatever.
Yeah.
The ad needs to be on Facebook for me.
Right.
Well, I think that if you're a business owner and you are working with a marketing firm and they're just like, yeah, we're gonna put you on everything, like maybe you need to step back and think about it, because we talk to our clients, because we do social media management. That's part of what we do. So as a business owner, you don't have to run your social media, but we're not gonna like tell you like just so we can get more money off of you.
Right.
You need to be on like every single platform under the sun. Like we want to actually talk to you about what makes sense for your business, and so sure, like we could just say like, yeah, you need to have every social media, but we want to talk about what makes sense for you and your audience. Where are your audience? If your audience isn't on TikTok, then we're going to say don't waste your time and money.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
So if you're selling makeup or toys or something like that, TikTok, great for you.
Yeah,
But,
and
like-
Instagram may be great for you for things like that. Like fitness stuff is big.
Instagram
Makeup
Fitness is big on
like,
Instagram.
Yeah.
Food is big on Instagram. Like I think anything that like looks good, that like
Anything,
catches
it's very
your attention,
visually
visual.
drawn.
Yes.
So it's
But
like you get
I'm
most
not going to
pictures.
see it because I'm not on Instagram.
Right. But
And
you're
I
not
buy
on.
makeup and I buy food and what was the other thing? Fitness.
Yes.
Right. But so I'm not going to see
But
it.
as a business, having an account on Instagram, there's benefits to that because that's where other businesses are too. 'Cause they're trying to market their thing, but also they're going to come across your product by using hashtags that they would follow.
Oh yeah, like
And so
I
that's how
found
we
a ton
build
of
up
like
that
hair
following.
care because I got curly hair just like you, and so I'll get on there and I'll just hashtag curly hair or whatever, and I'll find like new products that I've tried that have been fantastic, or I'm really into like more natural skincare, less chemicals but still producing results and stuff. So I found some good products. I have found some not so good products on there. And but they're marketing with some of them, like their products are awful. Like they're just horrible, but they have some really good marketing, super good. And you're like, man, like millions of people love this. And it's not, it's like the same review over and over and over again, it seems like, and it's just not a good product. But I think that they definitely have found like, their area that they can get people with. And usually I would think that like Instagram, but like I've got a lot of like fashion boutiques, like clothing and stuff. So like baby clothing or whatever, or even clothing for myself. And that's real big for me on Facebook. Like that comes up as an ad. And I tend to, click on those ads. Like they get me every time. Like,
I
oh,
know.
that is a really cute sweater.
know.
Oh, those shoes are really cute. That's a really cute
I
baby
know.
outfit, like. So
So
they definitely
the-
get me on things like that. I think there are platforms for everything. Like
Well,
I
I
don't
think
usually shop for
a lot
clothes
of
on
it is-
Instagram, but I will makeup and like hair care
A
products.
lot of it is a Venn diagram too. So like your customer base,
Yes.
like the Venn diagram is like people on Facebook, people on Instagram, and like some of those are going to overlap. You're going to have customers that you're going to target like on Facebook, and there's customers that you're going to reach to on Instagram, and there's some that are going to be on both platforms, and you can build relationships with them in both places. But it's just kind of knowing where everyone is, and if you've got a customer base that they're going to span, and some of them are going to be on Facebook and some of them are on Instagram, you need to be at both places,
Right.
And because some of them are going to be in both places, but if you just hit one or the other, you're missing all the people that are on the other platform. So it's really just knowing your audience and knowing where all they are and being in those places.
And they're not that different. Just some insider baseball stuff. They're both owned by Facebook.
Yeah.
So you can actually post to Instagram from Facebook or to your Facebook page from
So
Instagram.
it sounds good, but as
Yes.
a person who's trying to do that,
Yes.
that's how I know that I suck at Instagram, because I'm trying to do that
Right.
and I'm not doing a really
It's
good
So
job.
I
almost a
think what
different
I hear
language.
is that
Yeah.
Ty needs
Yeah.
to host an Instagram 101 workshop online. Vernice is going to be the first person
There
we
you
invite
go.
to join us for
There we
that
go.
workshop.
Hey, that will work, because the shifter group tagged me, or they posted the event for me, and I got a notification on Facebook that I had been tagged in an Instagram thing. I was like, oh cool, let me share this to my page, right? And I spent 10 minutes pushing stuff, and I said, oh my God, I'm old. Oh my God, like I think I've crossed it. And I think I ended up just sharing the picture back to them, like resending it back to them, because they put a heart on it, like, thanks.
Yeah.
And I was chuckling. I was like, do I even tell them, hey, I don't know what I'm doing? And so when I sat with my
You'd have to tell them.
I guess they already right. But I got work to do, and marketing isn't part of my work. So that I was like, okay, this definitely needs to be a marketing thing. So like you said, am I going to spend 4 hours doing the work that I know that I can do, that I love to do, that I know is going to make me a bunch of money, or am I going to spend this next 4 hours fighting with this one
Instagram.
Exactly.
And I think it's hard for people though, like you said, like solo owners. Like it's just hard for them to. One, it's your baby, right? You've created this, and nobody knows your business better than you do, and nobody's gonna take care of your business. Like that's how we feel about that. Like this is ours, and it's like Schmeagol, with his like this is mine,
Right.
and nobody else is gonna touch it. But sometimes you have to realize, like, I'm hindering myself from growing. I tend to
You
think
turn
that like
into the dinosaur with the one
Yes,
brain
like,
that is.
I'm gonna do
everything.
everything, and I'm gonna get on YouTube and start researching this, and that's how I'm gonna figure all this out. And then you realize like I'm just kind of adequate at it, and I need to be more than adequate in order for me to get to
Let
where I
me
want to
tell
be.
you, I can attest to that 1,000,000%. So when we first started our painting thing, I bought the $15 Vistaprint website, and I'm not gonna pay anybody for a website, because one, we don't have the budget.
Yeah.
For 6 months, I was the only person who looked at that Vistaprint website. The only person. Then when we registered and stuff like that, and we started getting all these calls. Once you register, you're a corporation.
Right.
They must buy the list, because all of a sudden you get bombarded
Yep.
with calls. So listen, audience, when you go ahead and register, already have you a second phone number or a business line already lined up, whether it's a Google Voice or some other kind of phone thing or something like that, so that you can filter out those business calls from your personal calls, and you can know how to answer the phone. But you guys probably already know that. But for the newbies, but so at one point I did buy a website thing, right? And it was like $400 a month for under the 6 month contract. And
Shit.
I know.
Who was this through?
Well, I'll tell you the companies that are out there.
Okay.
There's Yodel.
Yeah.
There's shoot, I used to have this whole list. Hearst or something like that. Hearst.com, and then I'll think about it.
Okay.
If it comes to me,
Yeah.
right? Well, anyway, they're all about the same price, and there's even the whole Thrive, the yellow books and
Oh
stuff
my
like
God.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I will tell you, I started getting real calls for the painting company, and they gave me a couple of tricks. Like one, I was using our business name, but they put me under Conway Painting Contractor, right? And I was like, well, that's not what I want to use, because I got my business name under everybody. And they're like, well, when somebody Googles you, Google what they need.
certain
They're not
names or
Googling
certain
King's
words
painting,
that they
or
Exactly.
King's Care Painting. They're Googling
what they want in the area.
commercial painter, Conway, Arkansas.
Right. So if you make that your name, then you're more likely to come up.
Right.
Right? So I just pointed my name, my marketing name, to that website. And then that way they didn't own my name, right? Or whatever. But now in all my other businesses, if I create a website, I use that technique. I'll use whatever brand name I'm using. I'll buy 2 domain names.
Sure.
You know, the brand name I'm using, but I'll put the website under whatever it is the person is Googling. That's one of my tips, because it's going to be in placeforresources.com under the business one.
Yeah.
So, but I got some of the largest contracts that I've ever. We did the Dave & Buster's in Conway, and that came from that website. That contract alone paid for that website. It was worth it, and many others. So companies out of state would, when they get local contracts, they're looking for local contractors to work. So when I get, I would get calls and invitations from companies out of state when they get a local contract, and it came from that website. And I think that's one of the things that put us over.
Well, I think that having your SEO in place is important, and having that professional website to begin with is important. Because if I'm, a national company looking for local contractors, and I do a Google search, and I'm looking at 3 or 4 businesses that show up, and one of them's got this rinky-dink website that looks like it was built in 1999, then I'm probably not going to go with them, because I just don't feel like they're as professional or up to date and modern. I want to go with someone that has a really nice website that feels more professional, like they're going to have it together and be able to work with me effectively. And if you don't have a website at all, you're just going to not show up in any of those results, and then that can be a whole different
And it
issue.
stinks that a website could stop someone from contacting you, because I'm sure they're extremely good anybody in any industry that's really, really, really good at what they do, right, and provide really quality services, but maybe they just don't know how to do the marketing side, or they don't know how to do some
your
things.
hair products.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were like, I like this Instagram ad. It's so pretty. So I know their product is going to be great.
And it wasn't. And I'm sure there could have been other Instagram pages, right, that had really good products, but maybe their marketing just wasn't so good. And so I didn't use them. And so it is unfortunate that we do obviously live in a society where we have the ability to look at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And instead of hearing word of mouth, okay, we know this company produces really good, they may not have the best website, but we've had 100 people who've said that they're fantastic. Sometimes you just only have the websites. We're just visually able to see so many more things and usually it's what catches our eyes. It's the reason why restaurants make food look really pretty, because if it's not, even if it tastes good, I don't really want to eat it. I'd rather eat this thing that may not taste good, but it looks really good.
Right.
It gives a good feel for what the business is, with the services they provide, and if it's a restaurant or something like that, what's the atmosphere like? You know what I mean? That's what I want to know ahead of time. If I'm going to take my wife out to dinner, I want to know what kind of place I'm taking her to if I've never been there before. I live in a town where it's their marketing strategy is still the same that it was in 1901, where it's you buy your space and then you set a little shingle outside and there's your marketing. That's it. And so they don't recognize the value at all in modern technology, so a lot of them, you won't see them in a few weeks. They'll just go under, and then another one will pop up in its place and do the same thing, and then it'll die, and then another one comes up.
Because I'll tell you now, with the quarantine, the COVID, we're trying to find who's open. What are their new hours?
Right.
And you have to go
Or do
online
they have any
for it.
special family pack deals? Because that was a thing that I was looking for. Of course, we Conway really hit it out of the park with the COVID food situation,
really
with the Conway
really
to
well with
go,
that.
with the Conway to go Facebook group that popped up, because I would get in there and I'd search family meals, and it would pop up and show me which
And everybody
places
had
were offering
deals. There'd be
deals.
Mexican restaurants that would have, this big family, they'd have
Taco
fajitas on
Pit
Fridays,
Fire
and
or
they'd have Taco
whatever.
Tuesday, and they'd have a Steven special or whatever. And then you'd have other restaurants that would have big pasta packs or whatever. And so it was I can't make it to the grocery store because I've been at work all day, but I can hop over here for $25 and feed myself and my kids for 2 days.
And today's consumers are going to look at the website and online presence before they do anything, before they make any decisions. And it doesn't matter if you are a restaurant, if you are a doctor's office, they are on there looking. And you think that it's just the young people, and it's not. Yes, the millennials are kind of the young adult generation that's out there right now. And sure, we're going to be out there every time like just because we're kind of the first generation that grew up with the internet as a household thing. But it's the 50 plus demographic is
there's a ton.
is one of the most rapidly growing that's adopting internet technology. My parents are in their late 60s and early 70s, and they're out there using the technology every day. They're getting on using their apps for church. They're using their apps for researching stuff and getting on and everything. So it's not just young people. Even if your target audience is older, they're on the internet and they're looking at reviews before they check things out. They're looking at websites. They're getting on Facebook and looking for your Facebook to see what you're doing and if you're open and what services you offer and what other people are saying.
And my short version of that is Google Maps.
Yes.
I'm driving over here. What do they have to eat over here?
Right.
Restaurants near me.
Yes.
And when it comes up, Google lists the hours.
Yep.
It has pictures.
Yep.
It has reviews, all in Google Maps, and then I can pick of those ones which ones
Yes.
I want. So Google Maps outside of Facebook and Instagram, probably it's worth the effort to spend a little
Google is
effort.
such a behemoth, and if you are not making the effort to get on Google Maps, Google My Business, all that, then you are really doing your business a disservice.
Right. Now
I know businesses that have a website, but then I can Google their name or Google their very specific niche in a pretty local area, and it's not showing up because they haven't done the steps needed to get on the Google map. And I was like, your competitors are all showing up, but you're not, and that's why you're not going to get any Google traffic.
And that last minute
Yeah.
Google traffic dollar too. That's important. That's the best dollar to me.
I do that too, even around here, and I know what's around, but sometimes I'm like, I can't remember what's right here, so I'm like looking up restaurants near me, trying to figure out. When I was working in downtown Little Rock, I'd always just pull up restaurants near me, trying to just scroll through and see what I was in the mood for, because there's so many different options. It's like, because you can get anything downtown Little Rock, but I just there's too many options. I don't know what sounds good, so I've just got to start scrolling through and deciding, because it's time for my lunch break and I need to figure out where I need to go.
I think that's what happens too for my mobile notary.
Yes,
I got this document I need to know, so I need my Google Maps to be good, because I get a ton of calls from Google. I'm so appreciative. I don't take it for granted.
Yeah,
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, so you totally recognize the value.
Absolutely. And I know how frustrated I get when I can't find what I'm looking for, or something that I'm looking for on Google Maps. It knows me to know.
I also have anxiety on top of everything else. So I want to know what I'm expecting, not just when I go to a restaurant. I want to know their menu and their atmosphere. I want to know all the things about any place I'm going for the first time. And if I'm getting online and searching for a new dentist or a new, just whether I want to take my kid out, to do something. I want to know what I'm
friendly.
There was one restaurant, and I really wanted to go because they had I have certain dietary restrictions, and they've got some really good menu options. But it's kind of it's like a grill and bar, and I wasn't sure how heavy that bar was in that grill and bar. And so I'm sitting there searching, and I can't see anything on their Facebook about it, and so I'm searching through all of their user photos, and I'm like, okay, well, there's a kid in that photo, it's probably fine. But normally I wouldn't go through that much effort, but I really wanted to go to this place. I just needed to make sure. But it needs to be there. It needs to be accessible so people know what to expect. So I'm not just over there stressing out because I don't want to show up and then all of a sudden be like, your kid doesn't need to be here. So
right, you go walk in the Coyote Ugly.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so I don't know. I mean the whole. I could talk about this kind of stuff all day. I mean, I know we jumped around. I think we were talking about hunting and math.
Yeah,
math and science,
hunting, reading, homeschooling, COVID, all the things.
Let me see. Well, let me put a plug in for my place for resources.
Yeah.
Right? Because you guys are going to be listed in it too, right? Well, and that's really what it is. It is it's kind of like this conversation that we're having, but hopefully more organized.
Sure.
And a lot more. But it's going to touch on all kind of things, including. I made my list here because it's so. And if you go on a placeforresources.com right now, I give you the option to put to make recommendations for things that you do want to know about, because I am working with a few people where I can add some of those resources. But the main topics right now are self-development, hygiene and etiquette, communication and interpersonal relationships, career and education resources, entrepreneurship, and then hobbies and home economics. So it's kind of the manual that I wish I had growing up. And I remember being on my job. I had been on my job not quite 10 years, maybe like 8 years at that point. I had, I think I had my own condo, my own vehicle, but I still didn't quite feel like an adult yet. And I couldn't figure out like what was missing. I've done all these things. So how do I was Googling rites of passage, women classes or something like that. And there was nothing that I saw that came up on the internet at that time. Maybe now, maybe 20 years later, maybe 10 years, 10 years later, something will come up. But it's just, and then I find myself in some of these private Facebook groups, and young ladies are asking questions. There's a lot of conversation about relationships, things like that. So I know that people are thinking about it. So it's just all of the things that I've learned by trial and error, or just by research, or just out here being a butterfly or whatever. I'm just going to try to compile a bunch of information and resource based off my experience and the people who have contributed. But even like including as it specifically relates to the Arkansas Business Engine, but there will be a separate entrepreneur course, and it's going to be geared towards the administrator of your business. So you may just be starting off, and when you get to the point, and I'm using trades as the example because that's where my father and I work in. And being out here in the construction area, there were so many people who were saying, hey, can you help do for me what you did, with your father? And I was like, listen, I'm running at both ends already. Right. I don't have the space. I'm saying, but if you find somebody that you want to work with as an administrator, then I will train them on the things that I know. And so and people are having a hard time finding who that person is. So
having a good administrator is extremely key.
Absolutely. Somebody who, so like what happened with my father was, he's like, I'm just going to go out here and handle the labor part, but I want you to bring the work in. So we got the construction license. I did the incorporation. I started reaching out to some of the prime contractors. I started going to all of these government agencies, marketing groups, networking groups, and just kind of just trial and error, learning stuff, meeting people. So people, there's a space for that right now. People want a guaranteed paycheck. They do. And if you just want to bring home your $13 an hour, whatever it is, that's fine. But if you want an opportunity to make some real change and have some real impact and have a real voice in what you do, then it is helpful to go and partner with somebody who has maybe the labor skill or the equipment, and you, the other person, can go and actually find the business, and in that way, you work as you eat as hard as you work. You have the potential to do this unlimited income or whatever, but there are times when there will be a limit. There may be a time when there will be a limit, but that just makes you work harder. And then and smarter, and you both win. Because when you're on the job and you're going to get paid, then maybe the incentive isn't there.
I do agree though. I mean, that's how we formed this entire business, was finding other people who complemented our strengths. Because like Felicia was just saying, like the marketing just overwhelms her, it stresses her out, and she could be spending a lot of time doing client work instead of trying to stress out over this marketing for hours and hours. Whereas like Ty is really great at social media, and he is great at design, where I'm not a visual person. I'm a writer. I can write things all day long, but I can't do a lot with visual design. And so that he and I complement each other. And so we all work together, and things that we couldn't do on our own, So it's just like you said, it's like find someone that if you can't do if you are good at getting people in and making those connections, but you don't really have the skill to do the service, then find someone who does the service but isn't good at making those connections, and vice versa, and just kind of building that relationship.
I promote collaboration all the time. We've gotten it carries over to the notary and to the other stuff, and it just makes it a million times better.
Yeah.
Even your group here, like, working with the business engine, and that way, if you're pushing lawnmowers or whatever it is you're doing, or selling popsicle sticks or whatever,
Selling popsicle sticks.
right? Then
That's a business. Yeah.
Right. Well, you go out there and you can be the best popsicles, and you don't have to lose days working on all these different things. At some point you can just focus on the part that you're great at. I even encourage people to start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
I took a class through the SBA for emerging leaders, and they focused on making a 10-year strategic growth plan, beyond your business plan.
Yeah.
It's a 10-year. And so he started off with saying, well, where do you want to be in 10 years? And then he's like, well, think bigger. Okay. Now think bigger. Okay.
Yeah.
Now think bigger. Is this big enough? If you have to ask, no, it's not big enough.
Right.
And then he said, now, as big as you are, now you start putting the places here on the bottom to accommodate
How do you get there?
the scalability. Right. So even like for the name, I usually wouldn't pick a business just for my name. I want to pick something that might be a little bit more commercial, unless, there's some strength in that, because Starbucks is a made up name. Walmart is a made up name. That's not the family name.
Right.
Right. So you can make your name a household name if you market it enough or whatever. So once you put those pieces in place, then you can start. I don't know. Am I rambling?
No, you're good.
Okay. You can, once you put the pieces in place, then you can you can just put the other piece on the back burner, or you can wait for that space to become available. Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
Yep. Work with the Arkansas Business Engine, and I got to put a plug in for you guys. It's not selfish. Again, collaboration.
And if you need notary, yeah, you know who you go to.
We use Vernice's business
Absolutely.
for our clients, and for, David's got his legal practice as well. So Hope Legal Services uses Vernice a lot.
Yeah.
You're a lifesaver.
Well, and because, I don't know, I like you guys too. So, yeah.
We share that.
We're always excited though, because not only do we get to have our documents notarized when you come and visit, but we get to see your face.
Same here.
And little conversation.
We love your energy.
Yeah.
I love your energy.
I know when I come in, like, all work is going to stop.
Yeah, it's going to stop for a few minutes.
Our productivity is going down.
It's like a whistle blows.
Must be on break time.
Well, Vernice, I really appreciate you coming in. It's always a blast hanging out with you and chatting. So we'll put links to all your websites and socials for your businesses on our show notes, and let everybody know where to find you.
I'll do the same for you guys too.
I appreciate
you guys so much.
Thank you.
You're the best.